Welcome back to Criminally Human, where behind every headline is a person, a story, and a tragedy that didn't have to happen. Tonight, we're not just looking at the Idaho 4 murders as a crime, we're looking at them as a possible ritual. The dates, the numbers, the locations, and even the secret societies in the background all point towards something darker. Once you see the patterns, you can't unsee them. And what I'm about to lay out isn't coincidence. It looks like a signature. In part 1 we broke down the corridor, the addresses, the Sigma Chi connection, and why cleared by exception isn't justice. We're taking it further. The ritualistic numbers, the 1122 King Road address, the secrecy of Greek life, and the deeper web that ties Freemasonry, fraternities, and even Scientology to the same kind of silence. The murders happened on November 13th, and 13 has always been a charged number. To the mainstream it means bad luck, Friday the 13th, superstition. But in esoteric traditions, 13 is far more than that. 12 is the number of order. 12 tribes, 12 zodiac signs, 12 months in a year. 13 breaks that order. It's the rebellion, the disruption, the mark of something unnatural entering the cycle. And here's what makes it darker. Earlier stabbings in Idaho years apart also fell on the 13th. Different towns, different victims, but the same date. What are the odds that such gruesome crimes just happen to align on the exact same day? How many times does the number 13 have to appear before we admit it's deliberate? Then we look at the house, 1122 King Road. At first glance, it's just an address. But break it down, and it becomes a code. 11 is imbalance and betrayal. In Masonic symbolism, 11 is the number left when Judas fell away, disrupting the 12. Double 11s intensify that meaning, doubling the chaos. Then comes 22. In numerology, 22 is known as the master builder, creation, construction, permanence. But in the wrong hands, it isn't about building monuments. It's about constructing chaos, setting foundations of destruction instead of creation. Add it all together, 1 + 1 + 2 + 2, and you get 6, the number tied to humanity, weakness, and the fragility of flesh. Was the house just a backdrop for tragedy, or was it chosen because the numbers were already telling a story? And if that doesn't shake you, think about this. The infamous Amityville murders, the very crime that inspired the Amityville horror, also happened on November 13th. On that night in 1974, Ronald DeFeo Jr. killed 6 members of his family as they slept. Different place. Different method. Not stabbings this time, but shootings. Yet the date is the same. The number 13 repeats itself like a signature carved across decades, showing up not just in Idaho, but in one of the darkest chapters of American true crime history. And if you're still looking for the pattern, consider the time. In Amityville, the DeFeo family was murdered around 3 a.m. Some accounts narrow it to 3:15 a.m., on November 13, 1974. Not just the same date we've seen repeat in Idaho, but the same darkest hours of the morning. Different state, different weapon, shootings instead of stabbings, yet the signature remains the same. The number 13, and now the hour of destruction, lining up like a code written across decades. Once you notice that repetition, not just in dates but in time itself, it becomes impossible to dismiss as coincidence. Now here's the part that rattles people. The victims spent their last night at the Sigma Chi fraternity house. A fraternity built on ritual, secrecy, and initiation. On the surface, it's a college social group. But look deeper. Sigma Chi, like many fraternities, is modeled on Masonic traditions. Secret handshakes, coded language, ceremonial oaths. The roots of Greek life are tangled with the rituals of Freemasonry. And 2 of the victims, Ethan and Xana, left that world of ritual and secrecy and walked straight into another world. The house at 1122 King Road. Was that transition random, or was it symbolic? Think about what fraternities look like from the outside. Midnight initiations, whispered oaths, ceremonial tokens and passages. While the specifics are guarded by secrecy, former members have admitted that candles, blindfolds, and dimly lit rooms are often used during pledge ceremonies to create atmosphere and to symbolize a journey from darkness into light, almost identical language to Masonic rituals. In Sigma Chi, initiates are required to swear lifelong loyalty to their brothers under solemn vows. They are taught secret mottos, passwords, and hand signs that outsiders can never know.
I see initiation ritual hazing instant.
Sure.
Our ritual is like very secret and like sacred to like people's hearts.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So if anything, if hazing is taking place, that's because of like an organization culture missing the mark,
yes,
or
absolutely.
going too far on something.
I see initiation ritual hazing instant.
Sure.
When you strip away the college setting, the resemblance to occult or ritualistic ceremonies is undeniable. Initiations aren't harmless icebreakers. They are highly controlled experiences designed to create loyalty through fear, secrecy, and bonding under pressure. In many fraternities, pledges are blindfolded, led into a darkened room, made to kneel, and forced to swear oaths before symbolic objects. Some are told to repeat phrases they don't fully understand. Others are pressured with humiliation or pain. The structure is the same across Greek life. Darkness, ordeal, oath, rebirth into the brotherhood. That is textbook ritual. When two victims left that space, they walked from one ritualistic environment into another, from the secrecy and symbols of Sigma Chi into the coded numbers of 1122 King Road. And then they died on the 13th. Was this simply chance, or a deliberate connection between ritualistic culture and ritualistic crime? Freemasonry reveres numbers like 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 13. Fraternities, born from the same culture of ritual, also thrive on numbers, symbols, and oaths of silence. And in Idaho, those numbers didn't just appear, they screamed from the case file. The 13th. The 1122 address. The Sigma Chi connection. The pattern is there if you dare to look. 11, 12, 13. Disorder, order, disruption. That sequence defined this case. The house with its 11 and 22. The crime on the 13th. The fraternity that thrives on hidden codes, positioned in the background. It reads like a ritual, a playbook followed step by step. And the question we have to ask is terrifying. If these numbers weren't random, then what message was being sent? Because look closer at fraternities like Sigma Chi. Their symbolism isn't subtle. Their badges bear crosses and mystical shapes. Their ceremonies echo the same secrecy that Masonic lodges are built on. Outsiders are kept in the dark, while insiders learn a language of symbols, codes, and ritual that's been passed down for generations. Does that sound like a simple college club, or does it sound like the training ground for a ritualistic mindset? And here's where the bigger picture comes in. Greek life as a whole has always carried danger. Beneath the parties and the image of school spirit, fraternities are notorious for hazing rituals, secrecy, and violence. Year after year, young men and women are hospitalized, and even killed, during initiation ceremonies that echo cult-like practices. Alcohol overdoses, suffocation, physical abuse, and humiliation rituals that leave permanent scars. Families are left grieving while universities quietly settle, and the machine of Greek life keeps running. It's not just about Sigma Chi. It's about an entire culture of ritual disguised as tradition. A system where secrecy is valued above safety, and silence is the price of belonging. Look at the record. At Penn State in 2017, Timothy Piazza died after a hazing ritual at Beta Theta Pi left him unconscious and untreated. At LSU, Maxwell Groover lost his life after a night of forced drinking at Phi Delta Theta. At Bowling Green, Stone Faltz was forced to consume a bottle of liquor in a hazing ritual and never woke up. At Florida State, Andrew Coffey died in a pledge event for Pi Kappa Phi. And those are just the names that made the news. Dozens of others have been injured, humiliated, or silenced every single year in rituals that are written off as tradition. The candlelit rooms. The blindfolds. The forced silence. The parallels to cult initiation are not accidental. They are designed to break you down and rebuild you in the fraternity's image. And this is where the Freemasons themselves come into focus, because some viewers may not even know who they are. The Freemasons are one of the world's oldest secret societies, dating back centuries. They began as guilds of stonemasons in medieval Europe, but over time they transformed into a worldwide brotherhood built on ritual, symbolism, and secrecy. They swear oaths of loyalty, they initiate members through ceremonies filled with allegory, and they guard their teachings behind closed doors. Their lodges are filled with symbols, compasses, squares, pillars, all tied to sacred geometry and numerology. To outsiders, it may look like a men's club. But to insiders, it is a system of ritual designed to pass down secret knowledge, discipline, and power. For hundreds of years, Freemasonry has shaped leaders, politicians, judges, and businessmen. Its fingerprints can be found on governments, wars, and revolutions. And its rituals, heavy with numbers and symbolism, have been echoed by groups like college fraternities, watered down on campuses, but still carrying the DNA of secrecy, loyalty, and silence. And here's a chilling comparison: the Church of Scientology. At first glance, it may seem unrelated. But Scientology is another institution built on secrecy, hidden knowledge, and step-by-step initiation into deeper truths. Just like Freemasons guard their rituals, Scientology guards its teachings, revealing them only after members prove their loyalty and sacrifice their money, time, and in many cases, their families. Outsiders are kept in the dark, insiders are bound by silence, and those who speak out are hunted, discredited, or destroyed. Scientology uses ritual in ways that look alarmingly familiar. Step-by-step initiation through the bridge to total freedom, where members only see higher truths once they've proven loyalty. Confessional rituals called auditing, where members reveal private secrets that the church records and later uses for control. Oaths of silence and loyalty, demanding disconnection from family or friends who question the church. Secret higher teachings in the OT levels, including the story of Xenu, revealed only after years of obedience, with the warning that hearing them too soon could kill you. Punishment rituals, like the Rehabilitation Project Force, where doubters are sent to labor camps, forced into silence, and stripped of individuality. Harassment campaigns under the fair game policy, where critics are stalked, ruined, or destroyed as a demonstration of loyalty. This isn't random behavior. It's patterned, ritualistic control. And when you put it side by side with Freemasonry and Greek life, the similarities are undeniable. That's the thread tying all of this together. Freemasonry, Greek life, Scientology. Different faces of the same structure. Secrecy, initiation, loyalty, symbols, and silence. And at the center of it all, rituals that bind people together, or break them apart. Whether it's college students pledging a fraternity, politicians swearing oaths in a Masonic lodge, or celebrities trapped inside the Church of Scientology, the pattern repeats itself. And when you look at the Idaho 4 through that lens, the possibility that this was more than just a crime becomes impossible to ignore. Think about the parallels. In Masonry, secrecy is absolute. In fraternities, silence is enforced through loyalty oaths and peer pressure. In Scientology, silence is demanded under threat of destruction. The line between tradition and ritual is razor thin. And when tragedy strikes, the secrecy doesn't end, it intensifies. Universities protect the fraternity system. Masons protect their lodges. Scientology destroys its critics. The cycle continues. Maybe it was meant to be hidden in plain sight. Maybe the numbers themselves were the message. And maybe that message is this: chaos can be built just as deliberately as order. What happened in Idaho wasn't just a senseless crime. It was a signature. A ritual written in numbers, tied to traditions that stretch back centuries. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Those numbers, the dates, the house, the fraternity, the secrecy. On their own, maybe they're just coincidences. But when you put them together, they form a pattern too loud to ignore. Freemasonry built its world on secrecy, symbols, and numbers. Greek life borrowed that same structure, watered down, but still dangerous, still ritualistic. Scientology perfected it, turning initiation and silence into tools of control. And sitting in the middle of all of this are the Idaho 4 murders. A crime stamped with ritual numbers, shadowed by a fraternity with Masonic roots, and protected by a culture of silence that looks the same in every one of these systems. So we're left with the most haunting question of all. Were the Idaho murders just the random act of a single man, or were they the latest page in a ritual that stretches back centuries? Because if the 13th, the 1122 address, the fraternity connection, and the echoes of secret societies weren't coincidences, then what happened in Moscow wasn't just a tragedy. It was a message. And maybe the message wasn't meant for us. Maybe it was meant for the ones who already speak the language of ritual. And if that's true, then what comes next? Because signatures don't end with a single page. They repeat and they echo. They leave marks across time and space until the pattern is complete. So the question isn't just what happened in Moscow, Idaho. The question is, where will the next page of this ritual be written? And when it is, will anyone recognize it before the blood dries? And maybe that's the real horror, not just the crime itself, but the silence that surrounds it. Silence from the institutions that should protect us. Silence from the systems that benefit from keeping the truth hidden. Because if rituals thrive on secrecy, then every time we look away, every time we accept the official story without question, we're feeding that cycle. So the next time the numbers line up, the dates repeat, and another tragedy unfolds, ask yourself, is it coincidence? Or is it the ritual continuing right in front of us? And I know this will ruffle some feathers. Because it's easier, safer, to pin everything on one man. To say it begins and ends with Bryan Kohberger. Case closed. Questions silenced. But the truth? The truth is always harder. Because when you line up the numbers, the dates, the houses, and the silence of institutions, you see a pattern no single man could have written on his own. And once you recognize that pattern, you realize this is way bigger than Bryan Kohberger. Some people will never look deeper. They're afraid of what they'll see. And so they shout louder, "He's guilty, he did it." Hoping that ends the conversation. But to the ones who do see what's really happening, don't let their noise silence you. Patterns don't lie, and the silence around them only protects the ones who benefit most. So maybe the real danger isn't asking if he did it. Maybe the real danger is asking who else benefits when the rest of us stop looking. And before I close, I want to acknowledge something one of my viewers said, that numbers really don't mean much, because they can carry both good and bad meanings. And they're right. But here's the thing, we're not talking about numbers on a chalkboard. We're talking about numbers that keep showing up in blood, in dates, in addresses, in tragedies. When the same numbers show up in ritual, in crime, and in silence, that's not coincidence. That's a signature. And if the meaning can be both good and bad, then tell me why it keeps showing up on the darkest days. This has been another episode of Criminally Human, where the truth has no filter and the real ones have their eyes wide open.
I see initiation, ritual, hazing, instant. Like,
Sure.
Our ritual is like very secret and like sacred to like people's hearts.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So if anything, if hazing is taking place, that's because of like an organization culture missing the mark,
Yes,
or
absolutely.
going too far on something.
I see initiation, ritual, hazing, instant. Like,
Sure.
Our